Welcome to Rivalz Race Chat. Clinton, Geoffrey, and Adam Ross here as we are weekly. We appreciate you putting up with us shifting the show a bit last week. We never know what to do there, do we, Adam? Or do we act like it's live, act like it's Memorex? I got the sniffles right now. We're trying to figure out if it's allergies or the hot wings I just ate before we came on the air, and now I've got them in my throat, and so it's going to be a fun hour. But we do have some good guests. We've got a lot of spicy topics to talk about, I would say. You and I have fought behind the scenes a lot. And when I say fought, it's fun, but lots
It's
of good
passion.
topics.
It's passion driven for the most part. It's partly passion driven, partly frustration driven. I'm laughing because what kind of idiot? Like, I'm the one who does stupid things. Like, forgets my shirt, shows up with a dirty shirt. I don't eat hot wings 10 minutes before I'm going to go on, and then come on looking like a snot-nosed 5-year-old because it's all running out of me.
I thought I could pull it off, but, like as Spencer said, it might be a photo finish to the end of the show. We have some official business to talk about. We have some amazing racing at a prestigious event, the Indy 500, to talk about. We're going to have Todd Lewis on with us in a few minutes, and he brings his own flavor of everything. And we've become good friends with Todd over the years, both with working and through our passion of racing and everything else going on. So Todd will be with us here to talk about NPS, NASCAR Pinty Series. I'm sure we'll touch on that. And, of course, the Indy 500. A lot of other things going on. Go ahead.
Yeah, let's start with something a little more serious. Well, a lot more serious. As serious as it gets, Clinton. Our thoughts are with Arnold Fowler, John Fowler, and the rest of the Fowler family. As Arnold is in the hospital, not doing very well. He has been a fixture in the pits at Oswego. He was a fixture in the pits for a long time at Flamborough Speedway, just one of those people that lives for being at the races and has spent a lot of years there. He's not doing very well right now, so we want to send out to him some positive vibes, whatever you do. If you're a person who prays, say a prayer for Arnold Fowler. If you believe in positive energy, send all that you've got.
Yeah, he's been with us since day one. He'd be the gentleman waving you across the crossing guard in the pit, sort of between the sprint cars and everything else going on. So, Adam, let's talk Ontario government. So last week we had Mark Rinaldi on. We talked specifically about questions that were sent off to the government. Well, it was Thursday, I think. Mark was sharing with all the promoters the answers he got. So throw those up on the screen, Spencer, and roll through them before we jump in with Todd here. So the first question Mark sent to the government, and we shared this last week, was, can we open up for practice as of May 22nd as part of outdoor recreation? And the government's response, and this is from Mark's MPP, who's relaying the health department and the sport and tourism rulings back to him. So their response was no, and although the door is not closed, they do not expect them to change this. They did say the province is ahead of target, and if we're lucky, we may see step one sooner than June 14th, but things need to continue in the right direction. Adam, we are seeing that today. They're hinting that, certain sectors may be jumping ahead as soon as this Friday. So we're seeing that. We're definitely trending in the right direction. Anything you want to say to number one, or just go through number two?
No, carry on.
All right, number two on the screen. In step one, which is starting on June 14th. Will we be allowed spectator capacity up to 15%, same as other non-essential businesses, as it's stated in step one? As of June 14th or sooner, we can open up practice or racing with no spectators. They don't see changing that. So that leads us to believe until July 5th, we're going to be able to do what we need to do without spectators. But at that point, we're not going to be able to have any spectators until that point. And the third point that came up, what does the government anticipate for outdoor capacity at venues after July 5th? And the rep said it's in discussion as we speak. Hopefully they'll have an answer what the capacity level is for step two. The minister asked if 50% would be acceptable, and I think the response was yes. We would accept that if it was accepted by the Ministry of Health, and if that's what they agreed to abide by, with the belief that capacity would go up in the next stage. So we're definitely trending in the right direction, Adam. And then the last topic of discussion was the border opening. Mark had asked the government where they stood with the border. Did they have any insight into the border opening up? They did not have any specific except to go on talks. Except ongoing talks are happening and that the personnel believes it will be open sometime later this summer. So it's not the news we want to hear, but there's light at the end of the tunnel. So we just wanted to pass that on because we shared those specific questions on the show last week, and those are the answers we got. So short answer, Adam, we're getting somewhere. We're being recognized by the government, and we're firing up cars on June 19th.
Yeah, and keep in mind, 2 weeks ago, Clint, you and I put money on it when we were going to be racing. Just 2 weeks ago, it was not looking good at all from your end that we'd get on track before July. I don't want to rub it in because it hasn't happened yet, but I'm only saying it to point out that things are changing rapidly, and they're going rapidly in the right direction. And I shared in our group chat earlier today a link to the Saskatchewan story saying that it looks like they're going to be fully open with no restrictions around mid-July. And if you remember, going back 4-6 weeks, I was pointing out, I don't know if we shared it publicly, but definitely privately. Look, Saskatchewan, here's their blueprint for getting open again. Here's the numbers they're going to need to hit, and making the assumption that that was going to roll out to the rest of the country. And it has with little tweaks and little differences. So I think that gives us reason for hope.
Yeah, definitely. Are we ready to announce any of the stuff we know?
Yeah.
You let it fly then. I don't want to get in trouble in case we're not supposed to say anything. I know the ones I have on the wall here that are 100%, but the freshest
June 19th, it is going to be a big kickoff. I'm excited. They just released the payouts for the event. It's fantastic. Flamborough Speedway, Pro Late Model, Super Stocks, Canadian Vintage Modifieds, Mini Stocks, Pure Stocks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that's a Pro Late Model, Super Stocks, Vintage Modifieds, Mini Stocks, Pure Stocks. Going to be streamed live on GeForce TV. Huge thank you to supporters, Young Drivers of Canada. London Recreational Racing is stepping up big time to support the show as well. Clinton, Caldecott, Millwright Services, Stage It with Style. We've got a number of partners that have come together to bring this presentation live streamed on GeForce. And the reason I say that with a little more enthusiasm than I might normally, we got a lot of fun new gadgets. We've got some new affiliations with GeForce. We've brought some new talent in. We've brought some new equipment. We brought a lot of new equipment in, and I really think that I think people are going to be pretty stoked for it.
Yeah, I think we hit our stride at Jacasa last year, and hopefully we can continue down that road. So just off the top of my head, we've got June 19th, Saturday. It will be at Flamborough live on GeForce around supper time. The following week, same deal, except we'll be farther on down the 401 at Southern Ontario Motor Speedway for their kickoff of their rebuild. They're going to race on the 19th, but we'll be there with the 360 sprint cars live on GeForce on the 26th. Then Friday, July 2nd, we're back at Delaware. There's talks of possibly another race on July 1st that we're working on. And then July 3rd, we're at Brighton for more dirt racing. So we are kicking it off on GeForce. We're going to have a busy summer and excited to bring out all the new gadgets. Without further ado, let's roll into our buddy Todd. Todd Lewis has been on the line here for a little while. Todd, welcome to the program. For some reason, when I saw the Indy 500, I thought we had to get in touch with you. Maybe let the fans know what your association with the Indy is before we jump into those talks.
Well, I have been to the Indy 500 a number of times. It's a hell of an event. If you are looking for an amazing fan experience, recommend the Indy 500. Absolutely. It was, if you watched any of the coverage on the weekend where they had 135,000 people there, well, you can triple that when they get back to regular capacity. And it is an event. It is a party like no other. It's a special event. It's an amazing place to be, just for the sheer energy that it occurs every week that the race is on. The people that have continued their tradition of 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years in some cases, making the pilgrimage to the 500. I was privileged to cover a number of them, working IndyCar races. I've worked at the event for a couple of different entities and a couple of different networks. It is an awful lot of fun. Unfortunately, I was not there on the weekend to see Elio Castroneves win his fourth, but it is something else. I watched captivated like everybody else, and it's a special event. It's a special place, and even if the race is not happening, just to go to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, if you were a motorsports fan, it is something special. And because the first time I went to the Speedway was not during race weekend. I went on a journey at the time because I was going to visit the woman I was dating at the time. Her family lived in Indianapolis, and we're going down to see her family. I said, "Oh, well, we got to go to the Speedway. We got to go to the Speedway and go to the museum." So, okay, fine. So you drive in under the track on the tunnel between turns 1 and 2, and you come up on the inside of this enormous facility, and you pull into the parking lot. And I got out of the car, and I just started staring and looking up and looking around at this place that was nearly 100 years old at the time, and looking around and soaking in all the history was there. And she was talking and talking and talking and talking. And I looked at her and I said, "Shh, just be quiet. I need just to soak this in for a minute." Needless to say, it didn't go well after that. But it's a place where the spirit of it really captures you, whether there's a race weekend or not. It is some place like no other.
Well, and after the show they put on Sunday, Todd, it is going to be a hot ticket next year. Phenomenal race, phenomenal finish, and the crowd was just electric. So there's no reason to think that they won't jam the place full next year. I've been to Indianapolis, I'll bet you 10 times for various reasons. I have never been to the Speedway.
Oh, do yourself a favor and go, Adam. Just go, take the tour, be the tourist and the whole bit. It's really something special. The museum is decidedly low tech, but just spending a couple of hours in there staring at all of these Indy 500 winning cars is worth it for a car guy, or even if you're not a car person. It's something to see and be part of. Just to look up and see the pagoda, and watching on the weekend. You're right. It was a spectacular race with Elio making that pass with a lap to go, and he'd spent 10 or 15 laps before that learning and watching, and knew the move that he was going to have to make. He made a fantastic move around Alex Palou to score the victory, his fourth. And he becomes just the fourth driver to win for Indy 500s. And I think he's going to be the last one, certainly in our lifetimes. I can't imagine, with the way the racing business has changed in IndyCar and everywhere else, that anyone is going to get the opportunity to win 4 of them again. I'm excited to see him come back next year and try to make it 5, because I would not count it out. But just to look around and watching the coverage, I'm imagining what the last time I was there, and your alarm goes off at 4 o'clock in the morning, and you get up and you start to make your way to the track. And here's one of the perks if you're doing TV coverage and you get to be on the TV crew, is you get a police escort from your hotel into the track. It's really cool to be whistling through Indianapolis at 4:30 in the morning at breakneck speed, going past everyone just to get into the speed, because it's the only way you'll get in around the lineup that's about 2 or 3 miles long at that point already to get into the track. It's like nothing you've ever seen before. So then you get inside, and then you hear the cannon go off at 6 o'clock, meaning the gates are open, and then people start to flood in at that early morning hour at 6 o'clock. And yeah, the partying and festivities begin that early, Terry. It's just, it is a race day experience that is something else.
Well, Todd, along with the experience, you need good on-track action. And I think, unlike the dig on some of the longer NASCAR races, is this race put it right to the finish. An afternoon of awesome action, right down to it. Let's look at the finish here and just soak in a bit of the Indy atmosphere as we watch Helio Castroneves go for 4. Roll it.
Yeah,
Spence.
it was.
You can talk over it too, Todd.
Look at this. Yeah, here's the move to the outside. As I said, Elio's kind of watching for a number of laps before that, and then makes the move around the outside. As he said afterwards, you kind of had to put your elbows out and go. And then he gets caught up in a little bit of traffic later on as he's coming towards the start-finish line. He's like, oh, is this going to time out right? Is it going to work out all right? And yeah, it absolutely did. He played it perfectly, kept himself a nice little gap between himself and second place. Good for Simon Pagenaud to climb all the way up for a third place finish as well. And just look at him work that traffic around. And boy, the celebration was something else if you were watching it, just to see him stop. Oh,
even sorry to cut you off, Todd, but look at the crowd before you even get to the driver's celebration. The crowd, like, not just that they were there, look at them, arms in the air, flailing. more than 100,000 people felt. I have goosebumps right now, but just looking at the people, how they were acting for Elio and his celebration is something Clint and I are going to talk about, I think, and hopefully you can as well. But you can't fabricate that. You can hope for it, but when it happens, it's just genuine.
Well, you guys have been to the Honda Indy in Toronto, so you know how loud those cars are. And there are 33 of them. Well, a couple have dropped out, but you know how loud those cars are when they're making their way down Lakeshore, for instance, at top speed, winding up and before slamming on the brakes for turn number 3. So imagine a track full of them. Well, the crowd is louder than the cars when you have a spectacular finish like that. I remember when Tony Kanaan won in 2013, he was just as popular a winner. And you can hear the crowd screaming and yelling and having such a good time and cheering on to victory over top of the cars. That's how loud it gets inside that place. It's something else to really see and be part of. Just to witness that celebration, to witness someone who has survived to win the 500-mile race, just to get into the field and understanding that all that needs to go right for you to win that race is something else. And to witness it and see it up close, it gives you goosebumps. I've got a great picture. I'll look for it and find it, and I'll send it to you if I can. Is of Ryan Hunter-Reay when he won in 2014, getting out of the car, because I was in Victory Circle. It was a little bit different than it is now, and I got a picture of him jumping out of the car and just thrusting his arms up in the air in celebration after he won. And it was one of the things you see it and you can feel the emotion coming out. I showed it to him afterwards, and he said, "Yeah, that was kind of a moment. That was kind of a moment." He really appreciated how spectacular a feat it was to win that race.
You know, Todd, I think a finish like that is kind of like, you know, even if you're not a Dale Earnhardt fan and he's coming down to win the 500, you're kind of cheering for him. So even if you didn't like Elio, you recognize what you're witnessing here and you start cheering for that guy. Let's talk about the post race, Todd. So as you and I are both guys, and I'll preface this by saying, you know, we're the guys who would be waiting in victory lane for him, thinking, bring that driver here, right? So maybe that dated my take on it. Adam immediately said he loved it all, and we fought about this too passionately because I'm a little bit stickler, being the promoter side in me, that I want all the circumstances that we've laid out, and you've got, you know, the trophy queens there and the milk and the wreath, and I'm inside screaming. It was great for a bit, but my personal opinion, I just felt it went on a little too long, and I'm thinking, why aren't they dragging him to the podium, letting everybody come congratulate him there? And I made a snarky remark to Adam. I said, why didn't he just go shake hands with everybody in the place then? Because we were fighting about whether, and Adam, his argument is let him enjoy it. Adam, do you want to respond, or do you want Todd to respond to that? I just, there's two sides to it. It was a great moment, but in my opinion, you know, I want to see him drink the milk, and just to, before I turn over to you guys, the one thing that bugged me all day in the broadcast, they kept saying that the other three are here. Well, why weren't they there with him in victory lane to shake his hand? You know what I mean? Maybe they went home or they couldn't, whatever the deal was. But
let's get to that question after.
You missed a super special moment there.
Go ahead, Adam.
Hold that question for later. But Todd, let's hear your reaction, then I'll give you my take on it.
Okay. I like a spontaneous celebration. And it's funny, I was texting back and forth with someone prior to the 500 and saying, "Oh, who do you like? What do you think? What are you expecting for today's race?" And it was just kind of, well, I don't know. And just, you know, and it was like, oh, I really hope that Elio doesn't win. It seems like it's kind of an act. It's kind of put on. And I can understand those that maybe interpret some of it that way. And having talked to him numerous times and interviewed him numerous times, you get to know, and Clinton, you'll know this too, because doing those victory lane interviews is one thing, but when you get a chance to talk to drivers and participants away from the celebration during different times on the track, it's even better when you get quiet moments with them, when they aren't pressed for time, and you can have a real conversation and a discussion with them. His enthusiasm, while many will find it hugely animated and a bit over the top, his genuine enthusiasm is at a very high level. No, he's not always jumping up and down and screaming and yelling the way he is when he is entertaining and putting on a show. but his enthusiasm for his craft and what he does and motorsports is 100% genuine, even at his age of 46. And to win a fourth Indy 500. Remember a couple of years ago too, he had a real opportunity to score that win and it got away from him. In fact, it was the Ryan Hunter-Ray back and forth that he had. He had an opportunity, and I showed him a photograph afterwards where he had his head down on the car and talking with him the next year. He said, "Yeah, it's tough. That was one that got away." And you don't get many opportunities, A, to win, or B, to win for a fourth time and become only the fourth person in better than 100 years to win this race for a fourth time. That's genuine. So yeah, it got okay. Maybe when he started running down the front straightaway and waving to everyone, that was maybe a little bit longer than you would like. I can understand from the promoter standpoint, from the TV standpoint, it's like, yeah, okay, we'd really like to get an interview with him. I'm really glad that TV stuck with it as long as they did and didn't cut away to commercial, because I've seen that happen before. It was smart. But that emotion with Mike Shank right there, hugging him and patting him on the back, that is 100% genuine from both of them. Having known them for a while and talked to them for some time, that is 100% genuine emotion, understanding that they've just won the biggest race. Elio's won it for the fourth time. It's the first win for Shank's IndyCar team as well. So you have all of that coming together. And yeah, that's a genuine enthusiasm for this bunch.
Before you jump in, Adam, I just want to clarify one thing. I was all right with all that. I loved all that, him hugging Mike Shank. I think my problem started after he ran down the straightaway, and then they still let everybody come out of the pits and hug him. At that point, they should have maybe reined it in. So Adam, go ahead.
So here's why I'm okay with it. And again, you guys can attest to this, Todd even more so. I've been through more meetings where from minute to minute, the seconds are accounted for. Okay, so you have race meetings. Here's what's going to happen. Here's who greets the driver. It is choreographed. And the reason they do it is partly to have control of the situation, but because not everyone will do the same thing. Not everyone will get you what you need, which is that reaction, that interview, drinking. The Indy is special because it's so laid out, the drinking of the milk, the presenting of the ring, all of these things, right? So it's all choreographed to the second. But the reason they do that is because not everyone can have a moment in history like Elio did yesterday. That was pure magic. And you would be crazy. Clint, I would possibly, if you tried to take that over and get to victory lane, I might encourage someone to punch you right in the throat. Like on the spot, someone tackle Clinton and let this carry on, because the passion was beautiful. And here's why. Nobody had left the facility, Clint. You know when you've lost a room, like we've all spoken in front of a crowd and said something that you thought was really funny and people just didn't laugh, and you're like, wow, okay, now what? And there's other times when you do get that real reaction, just raw, and you don't necessarily expect it, but it's powerful. Right? Like the crowd's giving back what you hope they will give. That's why it worked, right? I could see it going a little bit long, and if people were starting to file away, it deadens the mood. It didn't. It kept building. Mario Andretti kissed his forehead, and it's still building. So yeah, I get it. It took quite a long time. But it was history. You can't choreograph it. You can't script it. That's what makes it so historic. It happens organically, and it was just unbelievable. And to go back to your question of why weren't those drivers in victory lane, AJ Foyt might respect what Elio did. He might think he's a douchebag. And if AJ Foyt does think that, that's why you couldn't have them all in the same place, is they're all renegades. They're all cowboys of different genres. It'd be cool if they're in the same place, but if you scripted it that way, it would take away some of the desire. I want AJ Foyt to come to victory lane because he wanted to. Mario Andretti came to the straightaway because something drew him there. That's real.
That's the shot you just had too, with the gentleman who was wearing the black face mask, who tried to reach out and grab Helio and get him towards victory lane. That's Joe Hodge, who is in charge of all of those logistics with IndyCar. I've worked with him at a number of events. He is, if not the most organized, one of the most organized people you will ever meet. He has everything laid out to a second, as you've talked about in those meetings, Adam. He's the one who coordinates and looks after all of that for IndyCar. So he is absolutely 100% doing his very best to get him there as quickly as he possibly can, because he is going to have people screaming in his ear, where's the winner? Where's the driver? Where's Elio? Get him to the victory podium. Get him to victory podium. We need him here. We need him here now. And I've seen him working with multiple cell phones and multiple earpieces, trying to talk to 4 different people and coordinate what is supposed to happen, both pre and post race. Because it was last year, we were going through the pre-race ceremonies in St. Petersburg, and something went long. I believe it was the invocation that went a little bit long. So he is on the phone trying to coordinate the fly pass to slow down so they don't arrive too early. That's how much work is going on behind the scenes at this event. So they are trying to get him there as quickly as possible. But again, as Clinton, you said too, the Dale Earnhardt comparison. Remember when he won the Daytona 500 and every crew member came out to pit lane to shake hands with him and stop and congratulate him on finally accomplishing that feat? It was a similar sort of thing with Elio yesterday. He'd been trying to win this 4th one for so long that so many people wanted to come out and offer their congratulations, and that's naturally going to slow down the process as well. And I don't know that he shook hands with everyone, but he did have a lot of people that wanted to say congratulations on accomplishing this wonderful thing. The other part of this too is there was 135,000 people there, and this was the largest gathering of any sporting event since this whole stupid pandemic started a year and a half ago. So that plays into it as well. There's a whole emotion from the crowd that needs to be let out too, because this is the first time we've had this enormous crowd together to get together for one giant event and be part of something special. So you had that playing into it as well.
Yeah, I think I was with a sponsor today, and I found myself saying, I just want to be around a lot of people. I want to be out in the crowd again. All right, let's switch it up. CTMP truck race this week, Todd, was announced it won't be going on, obviously with the pandemic and the border. Kind of news we all thought. You just want to touch on that for a second?
Yeah, it's really a shame. But as someone who has crossed the border from the U.S. into Canada 3 or 4 times in the last 6 or 7 months, honestly, it's a giant pain in the ass is what it is I can say that, can I? Sure. It's a giant pain trying to navigate through that whole system. And I'm not going to get politically motivated about it, but I will just say there is an awful lot of nonsense that you have to go through and a lot of procedures that you have to go through that you have to follow. And yes, they do check up on you quite regularly. In fact, on more than a daily basis, you will get phone calls and or emails and or visits about crossing the border. So yes, it's disappointing that that announcement was made. It of course follows the others, that the Honda Indy is not going to take place. The IMSA event at CTMP is not going to take place in July. And it's a real shame that we're going to lose these events for the second year in a row. It's really exasperating and frustrating. And I know everyone's feeling the disappointment with that as well. But let's do, as I hit up on social media when they made the announcement for CTMP, is like, it's really sad. It's disappointing. We kind of knew it was coming, but guys, when you're having your events, we were going to come out and we're going to support you, and we want to be part of it. As you said, Clinton, you just want to be around a crowd and a lot of people. So I've been lucky enough to go to a couple of events in the US over the last little while. It's further along and they're more open up than Canada is. And when you get there, it's a really good feeling. So once tracks do open up, and I heard you guys listing off a bunch of places that have events coming, and I know we're not going to have fans at them right away, but as soon as you're allowed, then let's get out and support these tracks, whether it's the local small tracks like Flamborough or Brighton or Merrittville, or I don't care, or whether it's the larger places like CTMP, then get out and support them. I've been reading the stories too that apparently they're starting the process of getting set up and organized for GP3R in Quebec track. And boy, have I got my fingers crossed that they're able to hold that event and move forward with that. But once you do get out and get to some of them, boy, is it's going to feel like old times again. And even though the crowd might not be as big, you'll enjoy it just as much. So get out and support them.
Absolutely. Well, Todd, thank you so much for coming to chat with us, man. It's always, I sometimes feel like I can just shut my microphone off and sit back because.
You're saying I talk too much? Is that what is going on?
No, because if you did, we would cut you off, right?
Okay.
But you tell a good story. You're able to string a story together. Lots of people talk too much. I talk too much. That's why Clint interrupts me. I interrupt him. Otherwise, we would just drone on. But when you get a good storyteller come on, it's something to enjoy.
Well, always a pleasure to join you guys and gab and talk for a bit, tell stories, swap stories, and look forward to doing it at a racetrack real soon. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Todd, you can't go away. I forgot one thing. NPS,
Sure.
Still lots of talks going on there. They're still trying to put their schedule together. You know, I have a couple of upcoming deals. Are you hearing anything other than the latest news that they're going to try and put it into August and September? Anything else you're hearing?
August, September could be very busy months for what I'm told. It's it's going to be a little tricky in terms of how you're going to get as many races as they want. The number 10 races was the last I'd heard as to how many that they want to have so they can have a substantial season. There should be enough weekends to do that. The double headers will probably come into play again as they did last season for those limited events that we were able to hold. But I've got my fingers crossed. And again, as you guys chronicled a bit, things are moving in the right direction, not near as fast as we want them to go, but things are moving in the right direction. So hopefully everybody gets out, gets vaccinated, gets your shots. If you haven't had your first one yet, get it. And as soon as you're eligible to get your second one, make sure you do that too. I've been lucky enough to get both of them, so I'm anxious to get going. And let's hope that we get those 10 events. And even if it has to move into, say, the first week of October, if we have to stretch it out that long, then let's make it happen. We've raced in October before. It's more than possible. Let's make it happen. Let's get those 10 events in. Let's have ourselves a full NPS season.
Right on, Todd. Thanks, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Cheers, boys. Good talking to you.
Good to see you, Todd.
All right, Adam. Always good to have our buddy Todd on. Let's jump into another video just to change things up a bit. You've been looking at us too long. This can take us to a segment called Crowd Pleasers, Adam. We saw it. We talked about Helio Castroneves pleasing the crowd at Indy. You brought up Steve Payne recently winning at Outlaw with the Short Track Super Series. And this video clip we're going to show is Dave Blaney coming back to the sprint cars and laying one on Sheldon Hodenschild. But, anything else you want to say to set up this?
It's Dave Blaney's home track. And Dave Blaney is every bit as old as the Steve Kinzers and the Sammys. Well, not quite there, but he is up there to be wheeling a 410 sprint car competitively. Just take this in, and every chance you get, watch the crowd, listen to the announcer, and look at who is the first person into victory lane to greet him, and then listen to the comments. So, Spencer, you got to have the sound on. Everyone said the same thing to him in victory lane, and it's comical because they all swore.
Maybe another run.
Watch this finish, though. This is what makes sprint cars so cool. If this was a lot of other forms of racing, this race would be over with 2 to go with the lead like that. Keep an eye on it.
1 and 2, Sheldon on the cushion out of turn 2 for the final time. Sheldon Hodenschild taps the wall. Blaney gets by to take the lead. Into 3 and 4. Checkered flag will wave. Dave Blaney wins at Sharon, his first outlaw
There's the arm
since 1997.
That was awesome. Good job. That's sick. Right in that hole. That's awesome.
So that was Sheldon Hodenschild. Up to swear to him and congratulate him.
Holy shit.
Energy drink victory lane hat, and he's going to climb up on the right rear tire to celebrate his first outlaw win since 1997.
I'll sell you some tickets there. When the hometown kid comes back, and he's never really a kid anymore. And whack was these guys. And you got to think, Sheldon's doing that every second night of the week, pretty much out there. So to get back into it, kudos to him and the crew to put one together. Spencer, show that picture I sent right after our discussion day. Today was this picture shows the day that Sheldon decided he wanted to be a race car driver. His dad Jack picks up the win, and he's got his eyes on the trophy. Yeah, I think, Dad, I'd like to drive a race car too. A little bit of humor to go with it. But it's just great, Adam. And the best way you put it in the chat today when we were talking about the show is sometimes, every once in a while, it all lines up and the crowd gets what they paid for.
And that's what brings people back time and time again, is that thrill. It got boring to watch Darrell Waltrip win and win and win. Dale Earnhardt win and win and win. Jeff Gordon, the same thing. But every one of them, there came a point where it was so nice to see them win one last time, right? And to do that, you need that dominator. You need to go to the races and enjoy watching what for years at Oswego was Dylan Westbrook spank the field. Because once in a while, either he doesn't win, someone else does, or once in a while, the best of the best come to town, and our boy is able to go out and beat him, or our girl is able to go out and beat everyone. And it just feels good. You can't script it. You can't write it. It did make me think about professional wrestling, and I do this quite a bit, Clint. But I've been watching a lot of biographies because A&E has put out a series of them lately, and they're great. But there's something about a good villain. And can you imagine being Vince McMahon or Triple H having to decide when is the right time for a villain to win? So they have to take one of their biggest events of the year, and they have to let the bad guy win, because that's the only way you can set the stage for an even bigger moment down the road. Yep. That's a lot of power, and they don't get it right every time. Sometimes they make a poor decision, but just the psychology of motorsports and how it works out. The nice thing about motorsports is it is authentic. This is why for months I've been thinking about the new SRX series. A lot of these new series that are coming up, are they legitimate competitions or are they for show, much like the Robbie Gordon Stadium Truck series? I don't know.
You bring up 2 points there. So first off, the Robbie Gordon Stadium Truck, I watched a whole interview with him, and it's amazing, that business. They're basically, at one point, they were owning all the trucks and just kind of leasing them out. They were transporting them all. It's a package, a business plan I could see you getting behind, Adam. It's kind of the thing you've always tried to talk about. The other point is with the SRX, our iRacing guy, Kevin Ridley, sportsman racer from the States, he got hired by SRX, and did you see what his assignment? He said assignments were posted for the race. I think it was, I'm not sure, might have been Stafford, and he's assigned to Helio Castroneves the day after he wins the 500. So that's cool for Ridley that he'll be working on Helio's car at one of the SRX events. That's your homework, Adam Ross, to reacquaint yourself with your iRacing buddy, Kevin Ridley. And I say that in jest because I know he hooks you up with setups and takes care of you in the iRacing world. To get him on this show to talk about what's going on inside the SRX. Obviously, he's a week or two into his new job and doesn't want to get in trouble, but as soon as he's ready to talk about it, we want to hear it. A couple people asked about where Oswego is. Oswego's had the strictest plan of all. We're hopeful that, things will get around to where we can get some stuff going there. So we are still hopeful for Oswego. I had a talk with Glenn yesterday. The plan is still, when we're allowed to go, we're going to go. So Oswego has not thrown the towel in on the season. And, we're still building and getting ready to rock as soon as they can allow us to go. Our next meeting with the emergency control group is in 10 days from now. And we hopefully have some more news for you at that point, at least one way or the other. Which brings us to Oswego, takes us to our Burger Barn video of the week, and the Burger Barn is still pumping out food like you wouldn't believe every day. Check them out on 4th Line in Oswego. If you're down there, also fill up on Petro Plus. Bacon takes a ride. No, not on the Burger Barn train. It takes a ride. This is Brady Bacon taking a wild ride. Show it, Spencer, in this wingless sprint. This one, I think we got a couple views of it.
Oof. Bacon leaves the property. Huge flip for the
That looks a lot like when Mike Ling went over the fence at Ush Weekend, or Guy McPherson or Brad Knabb went out in turn 2 the same way. But wild race. You got another clip of it, Spencer? Okay. Show the picture.
So I had Dale Shaw and I were chatting on Facebook Messenger last week. And he says, I'm just curious. And you look at the sheer height of Brady Bacon's sprint car. He said, how come they don't take the wings off at Ush Weekend, for a special event every year and run wingless? And I was, my opinion, trying to express that to Dale, is there's a huge difference in driving style, setup, and safety between a wingless sprint car and a winged sprint car. And this really illustrates, like, there is nothing there to slow down the momentum of that flip. A wing really does a lot to slow the flip down, slow the landings down, and sort of cushion the blows. Wingless sprint car drivers, they belong in a class of their own, man. They got balls.
Yeah, without the wing on top, it's basically just a solid roll bar. It's like rolling a piece of steel down the hill. It's just going to keep going. When you have that big piece of aluminum, like you said, it just crushes and kind of sucks a lot of the energy out. But that's my homework then, to get you the clip of the Brown boys. I think it was Jacob or Mitch.
I think it was Mitch.
Testing the crate car at Ush Weekend as a wingless car. The crate sprints, the Action Sprint Tour, was originally going to be wingless to differentiate itself from the 360 Big Brother. But we will find that video. I can probably find it right now, but it takes a little while to process it for the show. So we'll get that on for next week, and I'll add that to the rundown right now. But we'll show you the test runs of the crate sprint 8 years ago or so. And when it hit the fence, and Adam, all it takes is a rut at the wrong place, and we're going to wreck a lot of cars and possibly hurt somebody. And I saw a sprint car purist, right, somewhere on one of the social medias. There's no such thing as a wingless sprint. There is a sprint car, and there is a winged sprint car. So the purists don't like it when we call it wingless. It's either a sprint car or a sprint car with wing. With that being said, we've seen a lot of cars getting ready around here. As we mentioned, the first 360 race of the year is going to be the 26th at Southern Ontario Motor Speedway, live on GeForce TV. Free to watch all our stuff on GeForce. Just want to remind everybody, if you caught us on Facebook tonight, we're testing that. We're going to be simulcasting both on Facebook and on YouTube. But if you want to comment, you got to sign into our YouTube. Log into the YouTube. If you have a Google account, you just sign in and you can comment right along with us. Spencer found it already. Run it then, Spencer. Greg's watching. Greg's babysitting us. So this is I thought it was Jake, but it's probably Mitch Brown testing these cars. And so this is the crate car. Okay, so it's Mitch, because that's Jake standing on the platform. Dad Doug behind there, and I
think Thatcher was there.
We're gonna look like.
This is 10 years ago,
The crates I think they would have looked great, but it gets scary when you see them flip. I think it happens right here. Maybe the next lap. But yeah, it looks good. And look at the Big O track, Adam. It's in great shape that day. Like, it is not rutted. It's in good shape. And we've had some rough days. Here it is. Oh, no, we're getting braver, I guess. So they tested this car for a few months. What were you going to say?
That's a nicely groomed track that day. That is super smooth.
So that must just be the test. Spencer, was that the end of the video? Okay, Spencer, just bring it on when we get to the crash. But yeah, so that was the plan. We're gonna get to see what this looks like. Then we are gonna mention the Doug Dodaro situation, and
we have the video back.
I know it's going into turn 1, so this is probably it here. Yeah, see, it just tips up.
And look at that. That's not even that fast or vicious a flip, and he still got more than halfway up the fence.
Play it again, Spence, if you can, if it's not too much trouble. But yeah, so like we're trying to keep these cars on the ground, and I think it just would have been a recipe for disaster at that point, Adam. When you look at, the crate sprints have the youngest, freshest dirt pilots and the bravest out there. So these kids would be banging wheels every night out there. I think we made the right choice. The other beauty about the Action Sprinter, as I got my Action Sprinter shirt on, and the crates is, the parity between interchangeability between the two classes. We've kept the same wing, the same tires, and I think that's dramatically helped the growth because, of the trickle-down factor where teams can sell stuff to some of the lower budget teams. With that being said, we mentioned the 360s are up on the June 26th. As it stands right now, July 10th, we believe, is going to be the first race for the crates, and we'll have both schedules out. We're hoping for tomorrow. We've just been trying to lock it down, but it's been a real moving target, and all the teams are riding along with us. Let's move over to Oswego Speedway. It was classic weekend, Adam. I spoke to John Brush, one of our supporters. He's a big supporter of the Doug Dodaro car. Doug was running second with 2 or 3 to go.
He was mounting. Are you familiar? Like, how familiar are you with the classic, Clint?
Well, I've never been. I've seen it a bunch of times. I understand the history, and I know a lot of the competitors.
So what happens now, and when I say now, probably for the last, excuse me, I got to adjust because once my dog Decker gets off the back of the couch, it collapses because he has destroyed it. 200 laps is a stretch for these cars to go on fuel. And to conserve equipment, what you'll see is for about 160, 170 laps even, you'll see a pack of cars, and they look like they're racing. They're jockeying for position, and they're going pretty fast. But once you get to that 30, 40 laps to go, it is time to go. And then, like, they take off. It's like a cat and mouse game. As I say, you would have to have seen a lot of them and really study them. So Tyler Thompson ran out of fuel. So then all of a sudden it's Michael Barnes, it's Doug Didero. Who else was up there? Otto Sitterly was up there. A bunch of drivers that know it's time to turn it on. And that's what they're doing. They're starting to really drive these cars. I'm so grateful, and I know we probably shouldn't promote them as competition, but I love that Flow Racing has them on every week because I've been watching them. Super Modifieds without the huge ISMA wing at Oswego Speedway is how they should be. These cars race so well, and you were watching Doug Didero just drive the wheels off of this car, trying to get to Michael Barnes and make a move, and it looked like he had a shot.
Yeah, I was talking to John Brush, as I said, he's one of the supporters of Didero there, and he said it gets so frustrating as you're watching him, but he's one of the best at saving his equipment. And John says, I know I sound like every crew or team out there, but he said, damn it, we had him. He goes, he had the tires, he was coming. He goes, he's the veteran. He goes, I think we had it in the bag. And then with 3 to go, the drive shaft broke, went through the oil line and the fuel cell, and caused a bit of a fire. Show the picture, Spencer, first off, so people know what kind of car we're talking about, and then show Doug's post, and we'll read it off for the fans. Great looking ride. I love that.
Yeah. Do we not have the video, Clint?
I don't know if we do.
Oh, the video is spectacular. We'll try to get it for next week. Sorry about that. That's my bad.
Here's Oswego shared his post, an update from Doug Didero, who says his drive shaft sheared off, entered the oil tank and side cell, leading to the fiery backstretch crash while in second with 3 to go. Quote from Doug, I'm feeling okay. I want to thank everyone for their concern. We were in good position for another classic top 5. The car was solid, and I just wanted to finish the race, so it was a shame that it ended that way. I've never had anything like that happen in my career. It was a very scary accident. I got the belts off as fast as I could. Some flames entered the helmet when the car was engulfed. My face is feeling a little tender today, and I have some sore areas around my eyes that were burned, but I'm doing all right. I appreciate all who've checked in on me, and also want to thank the safety crew and ambulance crew for doing such a great job. Signed, Doug Didero. So all the best to Doug. Good to see a veteran is going to be back to play again, and we'll see how that goes.
1987. Hang on. 1987. I was sitting in turn 1 with my dad and mom. Gene Lee Gibson and Bentley Warren battling for the lead. They crashed out. I think there was another crash for the lead, and it left Warren Coniam to win his second international classic. But Doug Didero that day crossed the line in third, and I think he thought he had won the race because he spun the car out going into turn one and got out of the car with his arms up in celebration, which still a third place run at the time was a pretty good run, but I think he thought he had won that year. But geez, 1987, that's 30 some years ago, and he's still doing it.
I would say what probably hooked me in as an Oswego guy, there were two videos on YouTube that you can find if you're looking for something to watch later. One is Dan Kapazinski video that he made for Oswego about 10 years ago. It's the history of the super modified. It tells a hell of a story, and it'll lock you right into that. And the other one is the Budweiser Classic, or maybe it's just the Oswego 200, but from 1983 with Eddie Bellinger and Roy Silva's call of Eddie B in 83. The last 4 laps of that race are worth every bit of your YouTube money. And check those out.
If you could package an emotion, and this is our topic tonight, like the Indy 500, like Steve Payne, like Dave Blaney, those early to mid 80s classic weekends in Oswego and super dirt weeks in Syracuse, Clinton, there was an electricity. We didn't have social media and the internet to connect us all at those times. So at those times when you knew this was the biggest event in town, you'd all gather, you knew the world was coming there. The one year, in fact, the Southern 500, Jeff Bodine, because he was a New Yorker, the crowd all cheers and they talk about Jeff Bodine leading the Southern 500, and the crowd cheered even louder when they announced that Jeff Bodine had just crashed in the Southern 500. But everyone's together. If you could bottle that energy, you could sell it for millions.
Whatever I just read in the chat was obviously a misprint. Let's move into the next round. Didn't you write that? Oh, it was Greg who wrote it. Anyways,
I don't have my chat open. What did it say? Or you can't say.
No, it's Spencer
Greg,
screaming. No. Okay, so just a reminder, if you're watching us on Facebook, log on to YouTube, look up GeForce TV, find us there, make sure you follow us, subscribe, and like there. Again, live races coming up June 19th, 26th, the 2nd, the 3rd, possibly the 1st, possibly the 10th. It's coming together. So make sure you're checking that out. While you can't be at these races, we're going to help you get there. And if you can't get into the limitation during what we're calling step 2, I guess, GeForce got your back. Always free to watch all our races, and we're super proud of that. Let's move over to another thing from Oswego, Adam, and this was something you caught this weekend, pointed out, the cost. So is the cost of racing, is this the new normal? So show this picture, Spencer. This was the pit board costs at the 64th Annual Classic Week on Saturday for the Classic. Pits, general admission, $55 in the grandstands, kids 16 and under 25. But the big one there, Adam, is the pits, $65 US. Thoughts on that?
You know what? I didn't mind the $65 for the pits as much as I thought $55 to get in was a rich ticket. Now they are right. Was it a full field for Classic? No, it was 24 cars. I don't know when the Classic stopped running 34 cars, but like I say, my mind is still in the 80s. It just struck me that, wow, $55 to see a race, because I'm always thinking of, okay, what if I want to take Angie and Connor? So there's $110, $180 US, which down there they don't care that it's US or Canadian because it's all American to them. It seemed rich. But then when you said, hey, it's a special event, I got thinking, I guess that is the cost of doing business. It was a hell of a show.
Yeah, I mean, I guess as a promoter at our weekend, I mean, what does this mean for us? We're not trying to jack things up. I mean, I realize our ownership group is maybe a bit different than others, but when you look at the tracks, Adam, I think they're really hearing the call. This is going to be another year, like you've said all along. We're going to have to work together. We're going to have to work through it. I spoke to Sean Evans today about getting some updates done on our production trailer. And, he just said, hey, man, if that's the cost to get us through another crazy year and we're going back to normal next year, because I'm 100% in. And, when you look at it, you're paying $35 most nights to get in. if it's $15 extra to go do what you love, you know, and I realize I'm on the side of the promoters because I wear that hat most days, but I think all the promoters are going to do their best to make it back cost effective. I think you're going to see all of us collectively do what we can to try and reduce weekly costs for you, whatever we can from our end. I mean, we all need to
think
go
of it
through
this
to get
way.
one more year.
So Flamborough Speedway is doing another $250 entry fee race that we're going to show on June 19th. But they've also gone out and garnered a lot of sponsorship. London Recreational Racing, putting money directly into the late model purse. We've got great support. Young Drivers of Canada. Why can I not remember the stage? This is terrible. Stage it with style. Like, I always want to say staging with style. And what that is, Clinton, when people sell their houses, you stage the house so it looks great. And those businesses have really popped up. Stage it with style, a big supporter of this race. That's where the money needs to come from. The sport needs new money. It needs fresh investment. That's what the stream has done. It kind of brings a different eyeball. It makes it a little bit easier to sell a product when you can show the product to people. But all of those things combined, still nothing beats being at the racetrack. I've been talking to so many people that are just excited to get out there. Connor, last year, my son got to race a Canadian Vintage Modified. So exciting he got to do that. This year, he gets to race a Canadian Vintage Modified thanks to John Carley, thanks to partnership from Burger Barn. He gets to run a car with his name and number on it. Doesn't sound like much. You're still out there racing. But now when he goes to the track, that car is Connor Ross, number 44. Last year, it was Connor Ross driving the 25 car because that's what was there, or the 19 car because John Carley put him in it. It's just a difference because people have had all this time to prepare their equipment. And I know there's a lot of young first timers. I'm excited to see kids from the go-kart track, kids like Cole Quinton going to run the mini stock, Kyle Steckley going to be out in the late model. I know he's not brand new, but that just excites me to see these young people getting out there. As much as we have suffered, Clint, in the last 16 to 18 months, it is nothing compared to what the kids have gone through.
Yep, for sure. Racing is upon us. You know, when you look at, I was trying to figure out, it's probably been how many weeks since we got to see any real racing. And now we're 5 weeks away from getting fans back to the track in some capacity. We're not really that far out. And when you look at that, we're maybe only 8 or 10 weeks. And I know that seems like forever, but I'm one who hates light at the end of the tunnel statement, but this is it. It's shining. And, you know, we just got to keep pushing towards it. So
for Clinton Geoffrey to say there's light at the end of the tunnel, that there is light, because Clinton, it has not been sunshine and roses for quite some time. We're finally seeing some progress.
You know what's going to be light, right? My wallet, and I'll be happy to pay it.
Yep.
I don't care that
you know
we
what?
lose the money. I'm just going to hate having to admit that you are right.
I know. And so if we race on the 19th, because we were scheduled to do it, that is how I will win my bet. I'm going to donate that $50 somehow to someone in the field. Someone who is racing that day is going to win Clinton Geoffrey's $50. So fans, please come up with a way we can award Clinton Geoffrey's $50, because this is more than $50. Like, there's going to be cobwebs on this $50 bill.
There ain't. Fun. Okay, so I was just going to bring up a technicality, but then you donated the money, so I guess I won't play my dirty card and we'll just let it go. I was going to say, because we talked about that there would be a green flag for real racing by the 20th. So if it's the 21st, or do we say the 24th? We said the 24th. So if it's the 25th, 24th. I win. If it's the 24th or earlier, you win. As long as there's a green flag out. But what if it rained out on the 19th?
That's true.
My money's
here.
safe.
What if we do this? What if I put in $50 as well? Let's give away $100 that day.
No,
or better yet, why don't we buy some tickets for a fan who wants to come to the races? That's what we're going to do. That's what I'll because I had to put my $50 in to make a bet. You had to put your $50 in. Let's do it. We'll find some way for fans to register, fans who
No,
have
no,
not been
no.
to the races, and we'll buy tickets.
You can't put in your $50 because then you'll never let me live it down, and you'll say I
No, it
didn't pay
doesn't
the
matter. No,
bet for
no.
match. No, here, let me pitch something new. We'll throw in $100 from G-Force. I'll put in my $50, and we use $150, and we'll take care of some fans.
I just think that'd be cool, right? So we'll figure out a way. We'll talk to Spencer. We've got to do this, get it up on the social. We'll put together some kind of a draw, find out what tickets are going to cost, and give it away. Give away some tickets. So the money's going to go back to a race promoter, which is great because they're going to need it. And I'd like just the feeling of victory is worth far more to me than $50, and I know it would be to you as well.
I was planning on paying you live on the air, so I'll be glad to give it to somebody else live on the air. What else we got? We've got a few more topics, but let's not even go into them. I got chicken wings waiting for me. We're ready to go eat. Let's talk about next week, Adam. We'll be getting closer to the show. We got a few more topics we're going to bring on board. We got a few things to carry over for this week. What else we want to add? Anything?
Well, okay, folks, let's put you to work again, because I know I want our viewers to think about this. What can you do if you're upset?
Essay contest.
If you're a racer and you're upset with something that has gone on at the races, what can you do? What is your course of action that will make someone listen? And that's what Dave, and I'm going to butcher his name, Sapienza? How do you say his name?
That's how I would have come up with it.
He's taking action on something he feels was wrong at the races, and I happen to commend what he's doing because I think it's the one way that you will be sure to be heard. So put some thought into that. We're going to talk about it next week. But if you're a racer, do you file a formal protest about something? Do you make a phone
let's
call?
talk about it now. You got somewhere to go?
All right.
You got 3 minutes.
No, that's why I didn't
up that far. Put the rundown back up, Spencer. Can you? I'm asking to go in reverse now.
Sapienza is an asphalt modified racer. He was at Jennerstown.
Take Indy out. Take Costa Racing. The only thing we want to talk about is Sapienza, and we're ready for roll those pictures. Roll picture number 1 for Sapienza. Okay, so Adam, lay it out.
So Dave just skipped the Oswego NASCAR race because of issues with an event promoter and NASCAR. So an event promoter, and I don't know if the promoter leases the racetrack to operate these races.
It was a production company.
Sure. So, and the challenge is when you race a NASCAR sanctioned event, there are certain expectations you have, and there are certain expectations of a driver. You've got to be here at such and such a time to load in. You have to be at the driver's meeting at this time. You have to jump through all of the hoops that make a NASCAR race a NASCAR race. But also what you get is live timing and scoring, things that your spotter needs to do their job, things that a crew chief needs to do his job. So there's a reason you want to race with the best organization. Dave was frustrated, apparently, that some of this stuff was not available. It just wasn't working right. And he felt that's not right when you're racing with what's the most expensive modified group to race with, the NASCAR sanctioning body and the NASCAR Tour. So he wanted answers. The promoter allegedly did not return his messages or get back to him in a way that satisfied Dave. So Dave's course of action was, I'm not going to your races. He's going to go to Thompson, Connecticut.
So he says, you can't call me back when I reach out to you about issues we had, ? Sapienza said. Then to me, that means you don't want me at your events, so I won't be there. And a lot of other people feel the same as I do about what happened, but nobody will speak out because they're afraid of what NASCAR might do to them. Next one, Spence. We deal with this all the time with them, but if we were 5 or 10 minutes late for one of their meetings or something else we do wrong that has to do with them and we're not spot on, we are all subjected to punishment. We get fined for every little thing. They should start using my fine money they collect to repair their expletive equipment. Next one, Spence. And he says, obviously, I take it as a hint that you don't want me to come to your next event. I'm beside myself. The promoter's always telling us how great we are. He says, that's BS. We're so great, but you can't call me back and you're the promoter of the event. Don't give me that. You can respond any way you want. He said, I won't attend anything else to do with, I think it's Josh Venata who's promoting it. You want to ignore me? Go yourself. Yes, that's basically it. You don't want to respond to me? Take it up. So Venata said he's had no comment when he was reached by Race Day Connecticut Tuesday morning. This is a story that came out on racedayct.com today. A couple things from a promoter side, Adam. There's been nights where maybe our timing and scoring was down, and you probably thought, don't worry about it. But wow, that opened my eyes. Like, wow, okay, all these guys, they want all these tools and everything to work the way they want. So, I get it. We've got to bring it to them. And I mean, his point about meetings is almost spot on. If we're late, we get penalized. How come we have to do a good job? They don't. So,
But all of those complaints mean nothing. Nothing when you show up to the next race. So David, and the way I wanted to present it to you, Clinton, and I've done this, like I could give examples of how I've done it, and I don't want to. But if you go to a restaurant and the meal you get isn't what you thought it was going to be, you thought it should be something better. There's different types of people in the world. There's people who complain. There's people who just don't eat it. Or there's people like me who's going to eat the food you put in front of me, and you're never going to see me again. Not going to make a big deal of it. You just won't see me back. That's how I react to those sorts of things. So in what Dave's doing, he's kind of taking a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. He's being quite vocal about it. But if he does not show up to Oswego Speedway, that's the only tool you have in your toolbox when it comes to expressing your displeasure with an event promoter.
Yeah, sometimes you have that trouble guy who's causing you grief every week, and some days you're just like, good, stay home, and you never want to have that attitude. But sometimes someone's juice just isn't worth the squeeze. It's just like, yeah. But with that being said, as a promoter, one thing I've always taken out of my book of management is you've always got to answer that call. You've got to explain where you are. You've got to stand up for the wrongs and stand up and say, yes, you're 100% right. We'll fix it. And I think one of my favorite sayings I've heard over the years, every business has its issues, but the true measure of business is how you correct those issues. So, maybe it's bad. I wouldn't say maybe. I would think it's bad form if that's really the case to not respond to him, at least have that fight. Maybe the promoter's had that fight with him 10 times over and just doesn't want to hear it again. You never know. He declined to comment.
Right.
So he didn't feel like he needed to defend himself to the allegations or comments that were made by Sapienza. And if you recall Sapienza, he was also in trouble with NASCAR for getting out of his car not too long ago at Bristol, I believe a month or two ago too, right?
Martinsville,
yes, sorry.
Yeah. And now Rob Pitt's comments, that's exactly what we did last year. And even though people will talk about that, I still think, Rob, you did the right thing. Like if you feel that you're hard done by, because what it does is it shifts the responsibility. So go back to my food example. If I don't like my meal, Clinton, if I go to the Keg restaurant and order a steak dinner, it better be a steak you put in front of me and not a hot dog, right? Like if you've promoted an event, you've got to deliver. You've got to deliver what you say is going to be there. So if Dave is on his own island and he's one car out of 30 cars, no big deal. Life goes on. If he does represent the interest of a number of different people, or if you feel that tide start to shift, you've got to address that. Because sooner or later, if the Keg keeps delivering hot dogs as though they're steaks, they're not going to stay open very long.
See, I think you've also got to be careful, though, because, he's one guy and he can stay away. But I've also seen on the smaller tracks where you've got a smaller division who band together for a reason, whatever it may be, and protest and sit out. The promoter's just going to look at you guys next year and go, I'm not dealing with that. Move on.
And that's going to
so
happen.
You got to be careful, too. Like, I can tell you, we could have a whole talk about the PDA and what NASCAR happened to them at Talladega back in '69 or whenever it was. And, you just got to be careful because, you know, you just got to be careful as a team, because if you band together too hard, the track will revolt. But I think Sapienza is 100% on his call. You know, if you're not even going to respond, you've got to at least address your teams. What's been our rule? You know, you may not like. I mean, Doug Leonard and I, we've grown up in the race management, handling drivers like it was you and I 10 years ago. But Doug and I have been at it side by side for 10 now, and you know. Our attitude is, you know, sometimes you got to own to your mistakes. You got to tell the driver you made a mistake. One thing you and I developed back 20 years ago was call me anything you want, but don't walk in that pit barn barking at me and swearing at me. We'll go back. I'm a man. I can take whatever you want to throw at me in person, but don't come and try and publicly embarrass me because you're mad, because it isn't going to work out. One thing you said, and I'm guilty of it, is don't raise your level, don't raise your voice to try and prove your argument, I think was the quote you shared to us. And that's one thing I do. I get fired up. I'll admit
it. Sometimes it's good. You know, sometimes you got to show your passion, but I think saying something louder doesn't make it any more or less right. So I want your opinion as a promoter, because I keep looking over. I'm watching the Short Track Super Series at Penn Can. They're running the Contis right now. Their junior slingshot division, Clint, on a Tuesday night show has 4 cars.
Yeah, what are you doing?
You know, that's...
I'll tell you what's going on there. Off the top of my head, one of the promoter's kids is in that division. Or his nephew.
You may be right.
Reason for it. You know what? I'll tell you what.
I think...
While you're talking about Penn Can I talk about Lebanon Valley quick last night?
Yeah.
We're watching the stream. I'm with, you know, a few of my buddies over at Team X Bar and Sometimes Grill, and lately Part-Time Casino. We're over there, and the race starts so late. Then they have a long opening ceremonies. Like, I think they were almost an hour late starting for a good solid 45 minutes. It just, the whole thing seemed to drag out. And I'm thinking, come on, Lebanon Valley and Howie Commander and Lyle, you guys are supposed to be the best. How come we're sitting and watching all this drudgery? It was just terrible. Like,
I fell asleep watching the feature.
And even you said to me last night, did you watch Lebanon Valley? I said, well, till the Leaf game ended. And then I realized there was no hope in hell of me seeing that feature. So I just packed it in. And that's sad. You know what I mean? Like, we're missing great action. I don't know. I don't want to come down on anybody, because we've had our nights that aren't gems too. But on your biggest night, you Mr. Dirt Track USA, you got to be on time when the sun is shining all day.
3 divisions, 4.5 hours. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. What about the car counts for Sportsman on Sunday? That was insane. Like 70
How many cars
again.
do they have? Well, don't they have the Sportsman Classic coming up next month? I think they have a big money. Yeah, I don't pay a ton of attention, because anymore I see all sorts of racing, and it's beautiful. I got it up on the big screen, and it's a good night of racing, and I can listen to the announcers and see what I like and see what I don't like and see what I can pick up, and watch the flag people and see what I enjoy. What was it, about a month ago, I sent you a video of a sprint car track and people standing on the inside of the racetrack, just the way it's laid out. I'm like, this is an accident waiting to happen.
Yeah. You know, Alvars, he says racing needs unions to get their fair share. No cars, no show. I don't know. That's a whole other discussion. Let's talk about that next week. We'll bring up unions in racing, and can a drivers association work to make it? I mean, we've lived through all kinds of things, through clubs and, you know, dictatorships, whatever you want to call it, promoterships. Anyways, it's been another great show. I want to thank Todd Lewis for coming on. Thanks all you great people for hanging out with us on Tuesday nights. Racing season almost here. Don't forget, June 19th, we kick off at Flamborough, just around the horn. Whatever track you're into, if you're a race team or interested in racing, as far as we're hearing, June 19th weekend, everybody's going to be practicing, maybe one day, maybe 2 days, whatever your track time is. It's going to start happening, And most of the tracks, I think, are going to open up on the 26th. Not most, but all the ones that get practicing right away. There's going to be a bunch that are going to go. Some of the requests have been to bring Terry Vince on. I know he's working on his plan. They've really revamped Humberstone and looking for their grand reopening. So we'll get him on to talk about that. And I think that's really it for the 5th time. We're pulling the chute.
Yeah, had some questions from someone, but this is Decker, my golden retriever. He's a bit of a jerk, but he's often in the show. So thanks for tuning in. Super excited. Thanks to Young Drivers of Canada, London Recreational Racing, Caldecott Millwright Services. Stage it with style. I still said that wrong. I think I said it wrong. I got to open my phone again. Stage it with style. I got it right, and it sounded wrong. I'm never going to have it.
I was going to be a jerk, but I'll let you live it down.
I know. All right, guys. We'll see. Oh, the feature. The feature is on. That is.
We can tell what deals you sold because you said them 13 times on the show tonight.
No, you know what? There's reasons. Everyone just has to get their recognition. They all deserve it.
We 100% appreciate it. No, say it ain't so. Okay, here's everybody's question homework. We want a 300-word essay on whether Clinton is the yin or the yang, and am I the black or the white half of that circle? That'll do it. Thanks, Spencer, for everything you do. We appreciate everybody hanging out with us, and we'll see you guys next Tuesday, and we'll be coming to the racetrack soon. Have a good night.